About 83% of you guys are not subscribed. Subscribing, clicking that like button, and commenting all help me out a lot in doing what I really want to do. Thank you guys so much for all your support.
What is going on, guys? Rogue TCG here, bringing another Yu-Gi-Oh! TCG deck profile. You guys voted for it, and I am responding. Here is Shining Sarcophagus. This is a deck that focuses around a sarcophagus. This is a deck that focuses around a sarcophagus card, very similar to Horus. However, this sarcophagus card is not as good, unfortunately. It is just not as good. However, unlike Horus, there are some main deck like negates per se. Like, it's kind of strange to phrase them that way. They're like conditional negates somewhat. However, they are negates nonetheless. So this deck actually can do some pretty neat things. It does some pretty good matchups in the meta, in my opinion. I believe this deck is actually fairly decent against Tenpai, given Shining Sarcophagus can't be destroyed by monster effects, and more Marshmallow can't be destroyed by battle, and summons more of them when it gets destroyed by card effect. So I don't think Tenpai really has a reasonable way to kill them unless they swap everything to attack position and just swing over the Marsh Macaron. Get my Marshmallows mixed up. The more Marshmallow million times. But that's enough yapping for me. Let's get into the profile. Starting off, we're on 3 of the best card in the deck. 3 Shining Sarcophagus. Can't be destroyed by monster effects. You use each of the following effects of it once per turn. Once per turn during the main phase, you can add 1 card that mentions Shining Sarcophagus from your deck to your hand, except for itself. If your opponent special summons a monster from the graveyard, you can discard 1 spell, target one of those monsters, and send it to the graveyard. That third effect is not really the best per se. However, it is a situationally good card and can help you get rid of extra cards like Prosperity or Extravagance if you have drawn Extrav off of Extrav. Next, we're on Triple Silent Swordsman 0. Once per turn in the standby phase, increase this card's level by 1. This card's level is higher than its original level. It gains attack equal to the difference times 500. When your opponent activates a card or effect that targets a Shining Sarcophagus or a monster that mentions it, you control. Quick effect, you can negate the activation if you do increase this card's level by 1. You can only use each effect of 0 once per turn. Targeting negation isn't necessarily the most important, however, it does stop a lot of critical cards like SP Little Knight, like Nightmare Unicorn, and archetypes typically do have targeted removal as well. And 0 can get quite large and does mention Shining Sarcophagus, so we are playing it. We are on Triple Silent Magician 0, probably one of the best monsters in this deck, as in its actual interaction. If your opponent draws a card, it gains a level and it gains that difference, same as the other one. When your opponent activates a spell card or effect while you control Shining Sarcophagus, quick effect, you can get the activation if you do increase this card's level by 1. So Silent Magician is a spell negate. If you control Shining Sarcophagus, no strings attached or anything. So really strong stuff. We are on, this is probably one of the things you really want to be ending on at the end of your turn, that and perhaps 0. We are on Triple Gadget Trio. If this card's no more special, we can add a Shining Sarcophagus or a spell or trap that mentions it from deck to hand. If it's destroyed by battle or card effect, we can set a card that we're not playing from our deck to our field. So we aren't really going to get that second effect. However, that first effect is insane. Being able to add any of the archetypal cards is really, really strong. Next, we are on Triple More Marsh Macaron. While you control Shining Sarcophagus, can't be destroyed by battle. Also, your opponents can't target monsters for attack except for this one. You can use each of the following effects on more Marshmallow once per turn. Once per turn during your opponent's turn, you can control Shining Sarcophagus. Quick effect, you can special summon this card from your hand. If this card is destroyed by card effect, you can special summon 1 more Marshmallow from your hand, deck, or graveyard, or banishment except this card. And if you do inflict 1,000 to your opponent, it's just Marshmallow, but like made for this deck. It's a free special summon on our opponent's turn and can be really tricky for some people to out. Because even if they do remove it, if they didn't like explicitly like banish it with a Mirror Jade or send it to graveyard with Dingirsu, or link it off with Underworld Goddess, like it's gonna float more than likely. So, pretty decent card. Unsure about the ratios, to be completely frank. I'm just maxing out on most of the Shining Sarcophagus stuff that seems playable, just because it's more like an archetypal deck profile, and instead of seeing what the deck in the future might become. And then our last main deck card for the Shining Sarcophagus archetype is Gandora G, the Dragon of Destruction. Gains 300 attack for each banished card. Can add up really quickly to some of our cards in our list. You can use each of the following effects of Gandora G, the Dragon of Destruction once per turn. If you control Shining Sarcophagus, you can special from your hand. You can pay half your life points, destroy as many other cards on the field as possible. And if you do banish them, then special summon one level 7 or lower monster that mentions Shining Sarcophagus from your deck and increase its level by the number of cards destroyed by its effect. Really strong effect, being able to completely nuke the board, triggering your card effects like the more Marshmallow being able to special summon itself from banishment. Really, really strong stuff. And then also getting a fat fucking Silent Magician 0 or Silent Swordsman 0 is really nice. Next, we're on Triple Ties That Bind. If you control Shining Sarcophagus and a monster that mentions it, special summon 2 level 4 or lower monsters with different names from that mention Shining Sarcophagus from your hand or deck. Also, the rest of the turn, after this card resolves, you cannot special summon from the extra deck. You only activate 1 Ties That Bind per turn. So this is like the best card in the deck. Yeah, this is like Soul Charge from deck. Which is really silly and crazy. Pretty much always, if you control something like Zero or Magician, you're going to get the other half and Gadget Trio to search out another spell trap. Most likely going to be this upcoming one. Going to be Turn Silence. It is a quick play spell. It is Turn Silence. Trigger one face-up monster you control, increase its level by 3. Also, if you activated this card in response to your opponent's monster effect activation while you control a Shining Sarcophagus and a monster that mentions it, negate that opponent's card effect. During the damage calculation, if your monster that mentions Shining Sarcophagus battles, you can banish this card from your graveyard and the battle phase. You can only activate 1 Turn Silence per turn. This is a really, really good card against Tempai. Just being able to end the battle phase if your opponent tries to combat more Marshmallow is just really, really strong. We're just playing 2 of it so we can do it more than once throughout the course of a duel. But that's it for our main deck Shining Sarcophagus cards. Now for our consistency cards. We're on Triple Pot of Prosperity since we get locked out of our extra deck and we need to find specific cards, namely Shining Sarcophagus. We're on a Triple Pot of Extravagance because it doesn't conflict with Prosperity as well. We all want to get rid of our extra deck cards and we're not using them, so might as well draw some extra cards, maybe some non-engine. Speaking of non-engine, we are on 1 Called by the Grave for hand traps, Triple Infinite Impermanence as a hand trap, Triple Effect Failure as a hand trap, Triple Ghost Ogre and Snow Rabbit as a hand trap. This is more for Tenpai just because I am personally very afraid of them. However, you can just replace it with this Ash if you really aren't afraid of them. And then we are on a Triple Droll and Lockbird. In the extra deck is very inconsequential. So I made it pretty much like almost as expensive as I could and made it reasonable. So Triple SP Little Knight, 2 IP Masquerena, 2 Abyss Dweller, 2 Baguska, 3 Underworld Goddess, and 3 Typhon Sky Crisis. The only one in the extra deck that I think should really kind of maintain the same, like the only 3, I guess, is like a Dweller, Baguska, and maybe a Typhon or an Underworld Goddess, just because they're really good corner case cards. And technically, we don't necessarily get locked out of any from the extra deck from any card except for the Ties That Bind. So if we can manage to get 2 4s on field and make a Babuska before we actually commit to any plays, that would be ideal. But that's it for the main deck and the extra. The side is completely arbitrary, but I am just going to go over it really quick. We're on a Bestial package since every single card in this deck, except for the gadgets, are either light or dark. We're on 1 Magnemite, double Lubellion, 1 Druis Worm, 1 Baldric, and 1 Saronir. Magnemite can, in fact, search the Gandora because it is a dragon, so do keep that in mind. And we are on 1 Banded Beast. Then we are on 1 Branded Beast because, yeah, dragons. We're also on 1 Branded Regain because Gandora does banish our cards, so we can potentially recycle them and put them back, and it's also a really good Bestial card. And then Triple Cosmic Cyclone, Triple Evenly Matched, and 1 Harpy's Feather Duster. This deck, unfortunately, I don't think really has legs to stand up on its own. The most it can realistically end on in a turn is going to be 2 3-hand traps, a monster negate, and a spell negate, which is not bad. That is enough to beat most decks, especially depending on what hand traps you have. However, that is super reliant on non-engine, and the engine can pretty much only provide combat protection and a monster negate and a spell negate, and then mass board destruction on the crackback. And that is like the cap for the deck, just because of the extra deck lock. So in order for this deck in the future to really, I believe, thrive and succeed, I believe it needs like maybe 2 more cards in the main deck in order to really be able to thrive. Like maybe some other niche forms of interaction, like removal, because this deck doesn't have any except for mass removal. So those are just my thoughts on the deck. Please tell me your thoughts on the deck in your description below. I do think it is a very nice deck to go to locals with, and I do believe you can definitely get wins with this deck. It is a fully fledged strategy, just one that probably needs a little bit improvement in the coming months. But thank you guys so much for watching the video, if you still are, and I'll be seeing you all later. Bye bye!
Thank you guys so much for watching the video. If you wanted to talk to more Yu-Gi-Oh players like yourself, I would highly recommend checking out our Discord server. Link is going to be in the description, as well as the QR code on screen. We do talk somewhat frequently about Yu-Gi-Oh and the current meta, so I would really enjoy to see you there. As well as we do recently now have channel memberships available on our YouTube channel, where we have 3 different tiers. We have Super Supporter at $2 a month, where you get loyalty badges, emojis, guaranteed comment responses, a shout out at the end of every video, as well as access to the members only Discord channel, where you get early sneak peeks at future videos. There is the Giga Supporter at $5 a month, where you have early access to all new videos about a day or two before they go up, as well as all the previous offers. And for $15 a month, we do have our final tier, which is going to be Femboy Fanatic. You get a guaranteed customized video every single month, as well as 1 hour of my time. Could be for anything you'd like. You want a duel? Absolutely. You want me to help build a deck? Absolutely. You want to play some Helldivers? Sure. I'll do anything for an hour once a month. But supporting does help me out quite a lot, and it does help me produce all of these videos. So thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll be seeing y'all later. Bye bye.